Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the latest Institute National Online Branch Meeting. We do hope you're keeping well, and we look forward to the next hour and a bit with our two guest speakers this afternoon. As always, just a slide on general housekeeping. This is recorded. Hopefully a number of you now will have been involved in various Institute online webinar sessions, so none of this is new. Please bear with us. If there are any technical issues, we will look to resolve those as swiftly and as quickly as possible. If you have a question, and I hope many of you do have questions for our two speakers this afternoon, please use the Q&A button, whether it be found at the top or the bottom of your screen, your page. That's the way to ask questions of myself, of the speakers, and around the session this afternoon. As I say, today's session is recorded. I'm delighted, I'm very pleased to welcome two guest speakers this afternoon, Minesh Patel and Richard Devine. Minesh is an account manager at KPM. I'm sure a number of you Institute members will have had engagement with Minesh and KPM at previous branch meetings and Institute regional conferences. KPM are an online accounting and practice management software solution that is specifically tailored for accounting practices. I'm delighted to say that the Institute have been working with KPM for the last 3 years. Minesh previously was Operations Director of Abalon and Project Manager at Buybox. He's joined by Richard Devine, and Richard is Account Director at Verify. Verify is a multi-award winning AML and compliance platform delivering compliance to thousands of professionals. I very much look forward to hearing from them both over the next 45-50 minutes. Minesh, I'll hand over control of the slides and the screen to yourself, and I will field questions as we go along, or save them till the end. So thank you very much indeed. Minesh and Richard, welcome and thank you.
Thank you, Jonathan. Hi guys, I'm just going to share my screen for everyone so you can see it. Brilliant. So thanks for joining us today. As Jonathan mentioned, my name's Minesh. I've been at KPM for 2 years now, and I'm a part of the growth team. So my team and I are instrumental to driving the product forward with the introduction of new partners and complementary services. Just as a quick FYI, today I'm also doubling up as a quiz master, often a role I've taken up at KPM. So we're going to have 4 questions at the end of this presentation, and whoever actually wins the quiz will receive a copy of Seth Godin's Purple Cow. So some golden oldie that will probably help you, set out your objectives and plans for 2021. So to start with, I'm delighted to announce the launch of our new AML services in conjunction with Verify. This was released a few months ago this year, and Account Director Richard Devine is obviously on the webinar with me today. So Richard, I'll hand over to you for a quick introduction.
Many thanks, Minesh, and good afternoon, everyone. Just a quick snapshot of Verify. We've been trading since 2007. We supply a broad range of compliance-related checks via a secure platform. We also have integrations, and of course, one of these integrations is with KPM. Flexibility is our watchword. We launched at a time of great uncertainty just after and during the credit crunch, and commercial flexibility has always been a key part of our commercial model. And now in another strange year, the flexibility that we bring to the compliance space in terms of delivery, and again the same commercial flexibility, is proving very popular. Around 40% of our current sign-up flow comprises accountants, and they seem to like what we do. As I say, we have selected partnerships, and one of those is with KPM. I'm pleased to say that that's in the few months that it's been going has gone extremely well, certainly from our point of view. And we look forward to helping more of KPM's clients in the future.
Perfect. Thanks for that, Richard. And before we get started today, I'm going to actually run a couple of polls. So Linda, if you don't mind, could you run the first poll on the actual AML checks, please? Thank you. So this is just a quick question around how often you perform AML checks on your clients. So if you could just pop through, interesting results coming through. I know not everyone can see this, but I'll touch upon it and they will be released after the presentation.
Good to see the numbers going up, but there are a number of you who need to answer the question.
So off the back of it, the numbers are still rising as it's in progress. But from what I can see at the moment, everyone that's answered once a year, you give yourself a pat on the back. That's good business practice from what we can see. On the other answers, I guess once only when they're joined in 2 to 3 years. Hopefully this webinar will help shape those practices moving forward. And once every 2 years, you know, that's still good, but probably has more scope to change it. So interesting poll results. I'm going to ask the second question before we get started. And Linda, if you could load that up for us, please. So this one is to ask you what really constitutes an AML check on your side. Now, the world has changed in the past 8 to 12 months, so I'm sure your practices have as well. So let's see these answers as they pop in. Again, a very good turnout on the answers. So it's interesting. A lot of you can't see this, obviously, but the vast majority, about 60%, have picked ID verification face-to-face, and that's probably what the standard practice was prior to 2019, and obviously this year has made it a little bit more difficult to do that. I know there have been ways around it, and we'll touch on these points, but it's good to see that. Email of ID documents and video calls, that's probably a percentage of you that have tried to adapt to not meeting your clients face to face, and that's still great, don't get me wrong, but there are GDPR concerns involved with that, and again we'll touch on that. And then using identity check software, obviously we are going to touch on this today, and it's great to see about a 30% turnout that have actually taken this on board so far. So brilliant, thank you for your participation on that. It really does give us some greater context to discuss later on. So with the polls out of the way, I'm going to give you a little bit more context about us, KPM. I know Jonathan gave us a brief introduction, but we provide a full suite of accounting software, the core of which has been built ourselves, and we're 100% in the cloud. We saw an opportunity during this pandemic to enhance our services and improve remote onboarding to ensure our accountants felt confident that they were satisfying the AML obligations in line with the 5th directive issued earlier this year. Since then, there's been a whole world of change. COVID has and will continue to fundamentally change the way businesses operate. I think a recent survey of 100 business leaders saw over 50% stating remote working would become a permanent feature for most of their staff. And in another survey, I think by the British Chamber of Commerce at the start of July this year, stated 62% expected some or all of their staff to be working remotely for the next year. To add a bit more context around this, since March, everyone at KPM has been working remotely. So we're all working from home at the moment. And actually our service office issued a newsletter last month letting us know that they're actually closing down. So we're in a position where we have to make a decision on what we're going to do moving forward. So I can tell obviously us and a number of other businesses will also be in this position. But with this economic downturn, there'll also be a host of redundancies. With that, there also comes a wave of new entrepreneurs who in some cases are focused on sustaining themselves during what could be a deep and long recession. And what we've seen at KPM echoes that, with more of our accountants inquiring about our company secretarial and formation services. But alongside this influx of new entrepreneurs, there's also, we've seen this before, obviously, with other economic downturns, there's often been an increase of instances in fraud. So it's definitely something we all have to be aware of during these times. So with face-to-face visits, and over 60% of you did say that that is the line that you're going down with, but during the lockdown, it's very difficult to do that. With face-to-face visits out the window, the accountant's conundrum is therefore to remain robust with their checks, whilst also being flexible to accommodate changes in their workflow. And at the same time, you've got to keep an eye on the bottom line, because obviously with these new compliance legislation changes, it's a very difficult balancing act to take on during these times, especially with everything else that's changing. So what's actually required, and specifically on that last point, and taking a step back, the fifth money laundering directive, which came into force just after New Year's, asserts a few core requirements, namely that policies should be up to date, which by now, it's November, obviously, these should have been updated. Whilst in most cases, I guess the relevant accounting bodies and the QAB have paused visits, we're hearing more and more from our customers that these visits are being held remotely by the wonders of technology. So it's important to ensure these requirements are covered along with regular staff training. And based on changes to the directive and marketing conditions this year, it makes sense to retrain your staff anyway. So that's another thing Verify can help with. Of course, it comes onto the critical parts of the fifth directive, which is obviously gathering information, which for the most part should be unaffected by COVID. Risk assessing clients, which at the moment is a risk in itself, but the recommendation from the CCAB is to ask for additional ID documentation to satisfy the risk. And final verification through certified documents or electronic verification, either which must be completed, before offering or commencing services. And you've got to think about the storage of that said verification. Video conferencing is okay to interact with clients, in place of a physical meeting, but you've got to think of the implications of sending that ID prior to their meeting. You've also got to confirm that ID doc matches up with the person on that call. And as I mentioned earlier, there's GDPR concerns. So how are you going to store these documents that have been sent to you? How are you going to present that you actually had that meeting? All of this can be quite challenging to bring together. And I guess this is where our solution comes into place. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about KPM. KPM itself provides a full suite of practice software. It's critical to our business that accountants are able to remove barriers to their services through using our technology. We recognize the value of developing core tax services, as well as initiating strategic partnerships with like-minded businesses who own their retrospective compliance space. And through our platform, and you'll see this from the demo that I show later, the AML checks feed into our core modules and previous checks remain in the system. Our technology is modular. You can use KPM for whatever elements you require, but crucially, the system allows you to perform and store AML checks at a client level, regardless of which services you decide to choose. So before we engaged with Verify and brought in this partnership, we asked ourselves some key questions prior to bringing in this part of the platform. Does the system draw on multiple sources? Are those sources checked and regularly reviewed? Are there control mechanisms to ensure data quality and integrity? Is the information accessible? And does the system provide adequate evidence that clients are who they claim to be? So I guess this leads me nicely on to why we chose Verify. And at this stage, I'm going to hand over to Richard to tell us a little bit more about Verify and their services.
Thanks, Minesh. listening to what Minesh has been outlining reminds me afresh of the minefield in which the regulated sector now has to operate. Not just compliance, of course, but also avoiding fraud and bad actors. And that's, as Minesh quite rightly highlights, is an area that is a growth area because of the problems relating to COVID and remote working and increased electronic transactions. And I was delighted to hear from Minesh the other day that one of their clients during an audit was complimented on the strength of their internal procedures via KPM, and I'm sure Minesh will be touching on that later. But it's great to hear that sort of comment about a partner, because our ethos at Verify has always been a combination of high quality together with commercial friendliness. With that in mind, we've always attempted to offer our clients a broad range of checks, which, as Minesh says, have to be updated regularly. Our checks leave only a soft footprint on records, so there's no hard footprint affecting credit files. Our reports show a binary pass-fail result, which is nice and simple. They'll give a full granular output showing the results against the various databases that we check. We'll be touching on that in a second. In terms of commercial flexibility, we see that as absolutely key. As I mentioned before, obviously during the credit crunch, a great time of uncertainty, people weren't quite sure how many clients they were going to be onboarding. And we've kept that ethos all the way through. So we don't make any stipulations as to usage. There are no upfront costs whatsoever. The only thing that you pay for are the checks that you run during any given month, and we invoice for those monthly in arrears with 30 days terms. So we know all our clients are professionals and we treat them like professionals. We don't take payment in advance, or we don't use a hard sell on contracts or anything like that, because we don't have to, essentially. The pass rate is pretty good. First time, it's around about 89 to 90 to 91%, sort of varies slightly. And that means that your onboarding is more efficient. It's more attractive to your clients. Their experience is better all around, and they're not encumbered with unwieldy process involving photocopies or hard copies of documents. We have available to all KPM clients who use our service free support by email or telephone 5 days a week, although nowadays it's pretty much 24/7, to be honest. And again, touching on who Verify is, what Verify is, we were acquired about 2 years ago by the Davis Group of companies, which is a very forward-looking and expansive, mainly insurance-based group, around about 4,000 employees globally. And that's, for us, has been great. It's given us greater development leverage. It's given us the ability to grow further checks, and we'll be touching on some of the future developments in a few slides' time. But in terms of our technical approach and our technical credentials, as the next slide mentions, we treat these extremely seriously, of course. We're listed by the Joint Money Laundering Steering Group, from whom all stipulations are drawn. In terms of data, we go for best of breed data from a variety of sources, primarily routed through LexisNexis, drawing on Equifax and Experian where necessary. And we get our company data from CreditSafe. Our PEP and sanctions data comes from World Compliance, who are global leaders, and they're part of the LexisNexis group of companies. We're also about to launch an integration with Comply Advantage, which will feed through to our KPM integration no doubt, at some point. As you'd expect, we have the usual encryptions and protections in place, where Cyber Essentials assessed and certified, and we're also FSQS accredited. And as mentioned before, we're listed by the Joint Money Laundering Steering Group as a supplier of electronic verification identification checks. In terms of the contents of an individual AML check, we look to confirm address via interrogation of full and edited electoral registers. And we look also for credit file data, which is available from Equifax and Experian. And we use that credit file data not in any way to assess creditworthiness, which is why it doesn't leave a hard footprint. But as you'll see from the slide for what's covered, the data will simply confirm address by interrogating that data. We also crucially include PEP and sanctions data, as mentioned, drawn from World Compliance, and that's something that is only available online, and that's we find that's a real motivator for people moving away from analog methods of identity verification. The need, especially the need to check the PEP list. The sanctions list is available online, but it's fairly clunky to interrogate, but the PEP list is not available online. We also look at lists of departure, mortality, and our checks include the ability to check any nationality of passport, GB driving licenses, and UK national insurance numbers. And they cover anyone of any nationality living within the UK. We also cover the birth index and telecoms data. Our check will enable you to check a mobile phone and see where it currently is, which is a fairly useful anti-fraud measure. As Minesh touched on before, we also offer the ability for clients to run training courses, and those training courses are modular. They would last around about an hour and a half if anyone were to sit down and take it in one sitting. But most of our users will take it piecemeal, and they're available via any web-enabled device. In terms of future developments, as I mentioned, we're always looking to add increased value to our checks and breadth to our range of checks as well. And currently in the very, very final stages of developments, we have a mobile ID check that, as it says there, enables our clients to run, to request that their clients take a selfie, which is then checked and compared with scanned documentation. And that includes the ability to validate a bank account as well. And we're also looking to have a full PEP monitoring and PEP and sanctions monitoring service. And that again is in the very final stages of development. And they'll of course be available via API as well. And that is pretty much where we are. And if I could reiterate again, I think that the way that KPM have integrated our checks is absolutely first class. It's an excellent integration. It provides real value to their clients by leveraging our checks and using them as a workflow element in a very simple and easy to engage with way. So I'm really pleased with what they've done, and thank you very much indeed to Minesh and his team for a job well done.
I appreciate it, Richard, and we're going to go into that really shortly in regards to just giving you a quick demonstration on how it works on our platform, and touching on what Richard mentioned earlier about one of our accountants getting a strong recommendation from one of their bodies that actually looked at the onboarding aspect of the practice and how they brought clients on using Capian. We have within our practice management an onboarding checklist which covers a number of points, and we've got some preset defaults in there, but they managed to customize that for their practice, and along with the AML checks that Verify have also further added to our platform. It really provided a well-rounded, I guess, process, which hopefully, a number of practices, not that they just don't use Capian, but will be taking on board when they are actually bringing on new clients. So hopefully our platform, in conjunction with Verify, has enabled other accountants out there to streamline those processes and put in the due diligence really required to have best business practice. So I'm going to just talk you through a quick video. It's going to give you an idea of how the actual check takes place on our platform. What you're seeing here is just the outline of our platform and all our modules that it entails. So what you would do is you'd go into My Admin, which every subscription platform would have, and there would be a link within the AML section to register with Verify. So all your billing details here are with Verify. You click on that link and it takes you to the landing page here on Verify. So you fill in the details, click through on the gain access, and there's a 24-hour SLA for that account to become active and live. So we'll get a notification, connect the dots on our side of things, and once this has been completed in 24 hours, this part of the platform will now be live. So this has obviously been sped up for these purposes. As you can see, you'll be able to perform an AML check on this side of things. Now, this dashboard will give you an idea of the checks that you have done. You can click on the AML check section here, where each check is charged at £3 plus VAT. So it's a pay-as-you-go service, as I mentioned earlier. It's not an obligation that you have to pay upfront. And as Richard mentioned earlier, it's billed in arrears, so it's not something that's just taken up front. So you would fill in these details. The more you fill in, the more likely the result will be successful on your side of things. So once this has been filled in and sent off, you click on Perform Check, and this will send it off to Verify, and you'll get an instant result on if it has passed or failed. It'll also be able to link to any of your clients within Capian. So all you'd have to do is search for the client name, link it, and press save. So that will appear on the client profile. You'll also get an idea of when that check was conducted and when the next check is due. So obviously this is something that you can put into mind with your practice management. This all appears in that platform as well. So here you get a quick view. I'm going to slow this down a little bit because it is moving quite quickly. Just give me a second. So you get a better view of this. So as you can see, you get the results of the identity check there in PDF format. You can go through it and save that, and that will forever be within your platform. You can also download this PDF if you wish to keep it within any other platform or during your hard drive or any other cloud platform that you might have. But as I mentioned earlier, if you're using the full practice suite, you can store and keep these wherever you like. You can also export this information via CSV. So if you want to have a quick readable report on the checks that you've done, this is also accessible for yourself. You can go into your client's view. So if you have linked them, this is another place where you can see if you've passed or failed in terms of results. A lot of these are dummy ones on our account. We can't show you the actual accountant ones. So you will see a lot of fails in regards to the dummies that we put in, but at least the system's showing it's working there in that sense and not giving us a pass on these ones. As I mentioned, it also integrates with our practice management module. So that is My Admin that you just saw there, and that's on anyone's platform, no matter which services that you sign up with us. You could even have one of our free services for bookkeeping platform and perform these AML checks. Because as I mentioned, they're pay as you go. But if you are subscribed to our practice management module, you can also see these results here, because obviously you've got a broad view of all your clients. Here again, you can see your next check date. You can put tasks and deadlines in place in terms of being able to perform that check at a later date. You'll see on your onboarding, I alluded to this earlier, but we have a criteria in terms of if you have specific checks beyond the check, but specific processes in place for your practice that you want to put in, you can set these in the onboarding checklist. And the verified check can also be found here, which supplements these processes that you have in place with your current practice. So you can again view it, download it, and perform the check again if you wish to at this part of the platform as well. As you can see here, you can just perform the check again if you wish, and it will give you a mention if you want to do it again, and you can sub-reference this and cross-reference this on the date of your last check and when you feel the next check is also due. So that's just a quick overview of how it links into our platform. As I said, it's fairly straightforward, and it doesn't take a lot of time to actually put into place in that sense. So we try to make it, as Richard mentioned, as streamlined, as user-friendly as possible, and hopefully if you do get a chance to review it in the future, you'll be able to see how easy it is yourself. I'm going to move on to the final slide here, sorry, because we went through all of it a lot earlier and it's brought me to the first one, but I'm going to open it up. I know Jonathan mentioned we're happy to put any questions out there. So if there are any questions, please do feed them through.
Yeah, can I ask probably one of Richard? Richard, you talked about flexibility was the watchword, I think, of the Verify organisation. Not all Institute of Financial Accountants members are supervised by the Institute. They might be supervised by HMRC or another body. How does your commercial model work, please?
And it works very simply in that we give access to anyone that signs up with us without any commitment whatsoever, other than to pay for the checks that they run. So there's no sign-up fee, there's no subscription. The model is simply that we will send an invoice to them at the beginning of the month to cover checks run in the previous month, and within the system there's the ability to interrogate various reports, which will match up against the invoices so that they can be cross-referenced. And the payment terms are 30 days. So it's a flexible model. There's no commitment required, no stipulations about usage whatsoever, and no contracts to sign. So from our point of view, so that usage is simply ad hoc as required and paid for essentially transactionally, but with effect anything up to 60 days to pay.
Okay.
Oh, sorry, Jonathan. I was going to say, touch on that. As I mentioned earlier, it is a pay-as-you-go service, right? So it's £3 a check on our platform, and with our platform, you saw all the modules there, and we flick between practice management, which is a paid module, and just my admin, which is a free mod, what was part of the free platform, right? So even if you use the standard basic bookkeeping and the basic payroll on our platform, which costs nothing to use, you can still perform these checks because it's as flexible as Richard mentioned. You're paying for them as you go along in that sense. So it's definitely something for even if you're not using KPM for its full breadth, it's something that can help your practice in other ways.
Okay, thank you. I think one of the other questions I've seen was, do you need to be a customer of KPM to be able to use Verify, or if you're not using the KPM software, can people still use your product, your offering, your platform, Richard?
Yes, we don't run exclusively through KPM. We have a number of clients who come to us directly and have access via our web UI. and we have integrations with estate agent software, legal software as well. But for accountants, obviously we have KPM. So in terms of the logic of the arrangement, it's not a necessary part of access to our system to be a member of KPM, but all members of KPM have access to our system.
Yeah, okay, all right, thank you for that. I also think in this area, being able to complete the checks correctly, accurately, efficiently, obviously vitally important and very much needed, but that ongoing education and training, how do Verify help those accountants from day one, but 6, 12, 18 months later? Is there some sort of, behind the scenes support that's provided?
Yes, we have a regular newsletter keeping our clients up to date with developments. We have training, as mentioned, which is available. People tend to take it once a year, and obviously that keeps people abreast of latest changes. And we also have within our website, verify.com, a number of resources aimed across the regulated sector and occasionally beyond, which are designed to support people. But I would stress that we've always viewed a supportive relationship as absolutely crucial to our clients. Our clients are almost exclusively SMEs. We know that they're time poor. We know that they need as much assistance as is possible to steer their way through the aforementioned minefield. And we like to build long-term relationships, either through partners like KPM or in concert with partners like KPM. And we tend to operate very much as a partner with organizations like KPM. So their problem is our problem, and we'll get it sorted. We'd like to be active and proactive, and certainly reactive if anyone has a problem, because we understand that it's not just an AML check; it's a client, and every client counts. And obviously, there are some that you don't want, but most of them you really do want. And our processes are aimed at making sure that those clients are onboarded as efficiently as possible, and also that their ongoing experience is as efficient and as pain-free as possible as well.
Yeah, no, okay, thank you. And your website talks about AML and compliance platform. The area of compliance, does that go off into other areas that are appropriate or applicable to the accounting profession?
We have, we're engaged in discussions with KPM as to where we might go next in our partnership. But we have a number of checks that have grown out of our initial offer of individual AML checks. So we have company checks covering UK and overseas companies. And we have credit screens available as well. We also have criminal record checks, which certainly in relation to SMCR might be of interest. And going forward, that's something that's certainly available through our platform. And so there's no reason why that shouldn't be available at some point through the KPM platform as well. But it is quite possible at this point of development for someone to be running their AML checks through KPM and leveraging all the advantages that they have in terms of the, as you've seen demonstrated by Minesh, the systemic advantages of incorporation within the workflow of KPM itself. But it's quite possible to run a check, an AML check like that, and also do a DVS check via ourselves. Yeah. That there's no barrier at the moment to doing that. And at some point, as I say, it would be great if that was also available via the KPM platform. So we have, beyond AML, we have a large number of HR-focused clients as well.
Right.
And that's grown logically out of people doing AML checks and then also wanting to run criminal record checks or credit screens or right to work checks. Basically, any sort of check that an organization would want to do. We've simply responded historically to demand and added those to our range of checks.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. There's a specific question there. Does the software check for foreign nationals resident in the UK their foreign passport and eligibility to work in the UK?
It checks. We can check any nationality of passports. Obviously, in terms of right to work, there are complications at the moment in relation to European Economic Area citizens or EU citizens, and the passport, obviously, the validity would be checked, and that would reveal a certain amount of right to work eligibility. But we also have, beyond that, a specific RTW check as well. But the AML check, just to give a quick nutshell view, it allows anyone of any nationality to be checked, providing that they're UK resident. And beyond that, we have an international ID check that allows anyone of any nationality not in the UK to be checked. And that's one of the checks that we are also hoping to add to the KPM platform.
Right. Okay. No. Thank you for that, Minesh. This was a question that a member emailed me about last night, actually, ahead of today's session with yourself and KPM being involved, and it was more to do with the changing landscape next year of MTD. Is there a brief update for members as to how KPM are sort of adapting its platform, its offering, given the changing landscape and demands of MTD as we move into 2021?
Yeah, of course. So to provide a little bit more context, I remember when I first joined, the buzzword around 2018 was obviously MTD for VAT, right? To give you an idea, when that first got rolled out, we were probably one of the first platforms on that got through to the early soft landing period, had got their solution out late 2018 in that period to out to the market. We've done exactly the same this year. In that sense, it's been high on the development priority list. It is currently in progress with them to give you an update, and there will be releases in regards to MTD, because we have to stay on top of compliance, right? That's the forefront of our platform, and we have over 1,300 customers that we service at the moment that rely on us to be at the forefront of the compliance side of things. So yes, it's in its works. Where it is, the development team will always give me a date, but they'll always push it back to a certain extent. But it's at the forefront of everyone's mind in that sense. So there will be updates to our user base once certain releases are made in conjunction with that.
Yeah. Okay, fine. I've also been asked, is today's session recorded? As I mentioned at the beginning, the answer there is yes. If anybody wants a recording of this session, please do make contact with myself or the Institute, and we can obviously forward that recording on as and when it's available. Gents, are you okay that we share the slides with today's attendees? It's another question that I always get asked, but I never want to assume.
I wouldn't see any reason to be fair. I'll double check it with our internal teams, but yeah, I should think it'd be okay.
Okay, all right. Well, that's great, because we can share those slides if we're able, probably within the next 24 hours for everybody. And again, I see there's something about additional resources on that last slide. People obviously get in touch through the email address, through the telephone number if they're wanting to pick that up. Specifically, if they're wanting a conversation with Richard, does that come through you, Minesh, or or how does that work?
I mean, it depends on the kind of services that I guess they're at the end of the day looking for. With obviously our partnership with Verify at this moment, that kind of what we've demonstrated today and had that discussion around in terms of the prices and how it works on our platform, that would come through ourselves, and we can enable that conversation. So again, if anyone does want to get in touch, the info@kpm.com email address is there on your screen if you wish to get in touch off the back of this, or obviously get in touch with the IFA, and I'm sure as always they would pass you details on and your questions on, and we'll take it from there.
Okay, all right, fine. Yeah, I know you talked about at the beginning, you had a short quiz.
I do.
You've obviously come in lockdown amongst your colleagues, a quiz master. Do you want to run that?
Yeah, I will. So if everyone's up for a bit of fun, there's only 4 questions, and we'll poll the questions and answers. Everyone can get involved, and like I said, whoever does end up getting all 4 right, and if there are multiple members that have got all 4 right, we'll draw the name out the hat, and you will get the prize sent to you. So I'll pop onto that quiz next. Just give me a second. This is something I did like earlier in the lockdown, and it was probably about an hour long, so I had to condense it. But these are some of the more interesting questions off the back of it. So I'll roll on to the first question. What is the population of Iceland? If we get that poll up, is it A, 274,000, B, 364,000, or C, 454,000? No Googling. Don't like cheaters here. Right.
Yeah, maybe you should have said that beforehand, yeah.
I know, everyone's on their phones at the moment, finding out the answer. All right, I think no, it's still coming through. There we go. All right, interesting. We'll come on to the answers in a second. All right, let's move on to the next one, shall we? How many Pixar movies have there been? Is it A, 16, B, 19, and C, 22? Big fan of Pixar, to be honest with you. Toy Story was always a favorite. Don't know about everyone else. Again, very interesting. Rightio. Okay. We'll see who wins that later. 3. What is the name of this type of tree? Is it A, a willow, B, an oak tree, or C, a maple tree? Never been a big tree merchant myself, to be honest with you, so I had to Google this myself when I was looking at it. But cool. I'm going to move on to the final question. 4. How many countries make up Central America? Central America. Is it A, 7, B, 6, or C, 5? Very ambiguous what actually makes up the Americas, so it'll be interesting to see what everyone answers here. I know what it makes it up, but I don't know if everyone has an idea of what it actually entails. Okay, I think that's the majority of the answers there. All right, brilliant. Jonathan, I'm going to use you as a prop to give me what you reckon the answers were for all of them. So, what did you have for A? I mean, question 1, which was I believe the population of Iceland.
Middle, whatever the middle was.
So you went with B, and you were correct. It was 364,000. It's a difficult one, Iceland. Recently beaten by England in a Nations League game, but have bested us in Euros in the past. Small nation, but powerful. 2. What did you go for? Well, I've given the answer away. You're going to say C, aren't you?
Right. I wouldn't have said C, but anyway.
It's actually 22, and there haven't been any. I think there's a new one due out next month, to be honest with you. So that was due to change in 23, but it has been 22 for a little while in that sense. What did you have for the tree question?
Willow.
Willow. You know your trees. It is a willow or weeping willow, depending on what you want to call it. And finally, what did you have for the Central America question?
5.
5. It's actually 7. To be honest with you, I don't know where my graphics just disappeared to, but it's actually 7. There we go. There it is. That makes up your Central America. A lot of people get Mexico confused with it, but it's actually classed in terms of North America. So that is a short quiz that I had prepared. If obviously we get the poll results and we figure out who got all 4 right, what we'd like to do is obviously just stick that into a draw, and we will be in touch in terms of getting that book across to you afterwards. So I guess that brings my part to a close here. Unless there's any other questions, I'll hand back over to you, Jonathan.
Yeah, okay, thank you. I've got a couple of slides to share with everyone.
Yeah, of course.
I've got one final question that's popped up there for you. Is KPM free for bookkeeping of clients?
Yes, so we have a number of different modules, right? So we have 6 core modules, and then we have some additional add-ons. But a part of the 6 core paid modules, there are 2 basic modules which are free for accountants to use. So our bookkeeping for standard VAT filing is completely free to use, and you can give access to your clients through the platform. So that all you do is pop onto our website, take out a trial, and you can utilize that. Along with that, you also get the basic payroll. So if your clients have less than 3 employees each, you can utilize the payroll for absolutely free. And again, the AML checks are part of this. The £3 a check as you pay as you go. But if you do decide to go down the paid route in terms of our suites, there is an IFA discount there involved, which is 25%. That's always been in place with members. So it's something to always mention if you do end up inquiring.
Okay, thank you for that. I'll sort of come back to both yourself and Richard in a minute, but if I draw today's session to a close, there were a couple of updates or pieces of information that I was just keen to share with everybody. This is about up and coming Institute CPD and webinars. For those of you who are still thinking about attending the Starting Out in Practice workshop, regrettably that's sold out tomorrow, but we will be running a second session or series of that particular workshop in February next year, and I'll re-emphasize that again on the next slide. I know the financial reporting, the accounting treatment webinars have been extremely popular with members, and the feedback we've got has been absolutely fantastic over the last couple of months. The final one of the year is on the 3rd of December, form and content of financial statements. The final national online branch meeting takes place on the 9th of December, and we have Mattioli Woods giving a talk and presentation on that day. The 10th of December, Receipt Bank are hosting a webinar for Institute members all around how to pivot your firm to monthly revenue, a recurring revenue, I do believe that is. I know a number of attendees will have taken part in the last 6 months in a range of what we've called local online branch surgeries. Regrettably, given COVID-19, we've not been able to hold face-to-face branch meetings, but we have brought those online, inviting local members to locally held events. So, you know, there are 3 left for this year. If you're up in Scotland tomorrow, the 25th of November, over in Northern Ireland on Thursday, the 26th, and if you're in Leeds and the Yorkshire region, you will have received an email and an invite for the final event of this year on the 10th of December. I am working with all of our branch ambassadors to find dates where we can hold local online branch surgeries in February, March and April. Hopefully, as the year goes on, as the COVID-19 situation becomes clearer, we can actually at some point, maybe later in the year, return to face-to-face events, but the Institute will still be putting on CPD, webinars, meetings through various online platforms. What have we got planned for the early part of 2021? Tax series that will start in late February and run for the first 2 weeks into March. Again, this will be the 3rd tax series we've held. Thank you to all of those who've attended so far. We had some excellent feedback in terms of topics and subject matters that people wanted covering in a future series. So we will be promoting that next month, and the next tax series will run last week in February, first 2 weeks in March. As I said, the Starting Out in Practice workshop, because of the fact that we were oversubscribed, we will be running that again in February. The Financial Reporting and Accounting Treatment webinars are back in the new year. The first, with regards to financial instruments, will take place on the 4th of February. And a one with regards to problematic accounting areas will take place on the 4th of March. Those are financial instruments, problematic accounting areas. They're very specific. They're related to that particular subject area and subject matter alone. There are, though, quarterly financial reporting updates, and the next will take place on the 25th of March 2021. So please put those in the diary. If you're looking for further information, very bottom of the slide here, do visit the Institute website, www.ifa.org.uk/CPD. Final slide and piece of information from myself this afternoon. As members, please remember your CPD requirements. If you've been a member for the whole year, it is a full 40 hours of CPD that you are required to complete, 20 of those being verifiable, 20 being non-verifiable. If you joined at a particular point in the year as a member, then your CPD requirement is prorated. Always mention this on any event I get involved in, the COVID-19 resources page on the website. That is regularly, constantly updated around a range of different topics, subject matters that link back to COVID-19, taxation, accounting, government announcements, etc. I would always sort of point people to members to the member support group. Our branch ambassadors, other IFA personnel are there to help with member queries. If they're looking for guidance, an opinion, please, you can get in touch either via email or telephone. Just a reminder, the renewals communication to members went out last month, so members will have received emails with reference to the renewal process. Whether it's membership renewals or, if it's applicable to you, firm renewals, please bear in mind it's yes, the payment of the appropriate fees, but it's also about the completion of your mandatory member declaration and your mandatory firm return. So it's fees and those necessary declarations. So just a couple of points to raise there. Before I sign off and let everybody get going into their afternoon, a couple of questions there. Okay, thank you for the piece of feedback. Somebody's mentioned that they feel that our CPD is expensive. Take on board that comment. What I would also say is that we actually offer both free CPD as well as paid for CPD. So I'd like to think, I do believe we get the blend correct, but thank you for the comment and the feedback there. I think that's it really for today. I'd like to thank Minesh, I'd like to thank Richard for their time this afternoon, for joining us, for giving us some insight into the area that they've covered this afternoon. It's nice to do things differently, talk, information, education, etc., etc. But it was also nice, Minesh, to have something slightly light-hearted at the end, which we would always appreciate. So thank you. To all members, have a good afternoon. Keep well, stay safe, and we look forward to seeing you at the next branch meeting, as I say, which is on the 9th of December. Have a good afternoon all. Minesh, Richard, thank you very much indeed. Everybody take care. Thank you.
Take care.